It's wonderful to have all of you join us for this panel and to talk about some of the exciting initiatives underway in the regions that you lead and serve. So let's start off with the video that we just saw. It was a fantastic inaugural Leadership Institute. So I think I would like to just first of all ask perhaps Tim, who took the leadership on this particular effort, to give us a little bit of your sense of, give us two elements that you think were absolutely different and new for the World Clubs family.
Sure, Yolanda. Well, first, I was having wonderful flashbacks to seeing folks gathered from across the continent sharing, and there were some language issues and all of that. But at the end of the day, we were all in the same space, same parts, coming together to figure out ways to support the kids we serve. And I will also just say that as much planning and all that went into the event, we learned so much more than we shared. And so I don't know if you can tell, but there was a sizzle going on from the first moment until the day we packaged everything up. It was really a wonderful experience. And Mike, man, you were just magnificent, you and your team from South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the buzz, we all felt it, and we have received that same vibe in the office with people's responses, with participants' videos, and certainly a lot of the commentary. Mike, what is your take? What was top issues that you feel came out of that gathering?
Yeah, it was an amazing event. I think it really opened the heart of a lot of the affiliates to the heart of World Youth Clubs, and I think we joined as strangers and left as family. And I got a sense of the beginning of a movement, or the continuation of the beginning of the movement that we're all engaged with to try and help young people across the world. So it was, yeah, from that side, just the connections were incredible. Tim taking control of a lot of things and me backstopping here and there. I think it was a great team effort. Reverend Weaver being the masters of ceremonies in many instances, and Clemence as well. So all in all, I think it was at the beginning of something big, is my sense from when I walked away from there.
It's a great way to put it, because it was coming from the southern part of the continent, meeting in the middle, coming from the north, and also having an opportunity to give some of the people who are on the ground every day, working with kids in their communities, the opportunity to move geographically to a completely different region and share experiences and interactions and what are the best practices. I imagine that can be a very rewarding opportunity, and you, the two of you, with Reverend Weaver being the instigators of that, can be really very powerful. So thank you very much. We'll circle back with that, but now let me introduce Olga Ramos, who is brand new to our region of Latin America. Olga, please, you're happy to introduce yourself, and then I would just ask, do you see something like this happening in Latin America for our affiliates?
Absolutely. Yes, and yes. But I'm Olga. I'm really happy to be here. I was former president of the Boys and Girls Club in Puerto Rico, and now most recently part of the advancement team. I'm really honored to be part of this great team of leaders and experts. So I'm also here to learn. I've been involved with the youth movement for the past 15 years. And looking forward to many more so we can advance our youth across the globe.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Yolanda.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your Promise Award. That was a beautiful recognition of your 15 years of work, and dedication to the children in Puerto Rico. But now you have an opportunity to take all of those learnings to create new connections and new alliances throughout Latin America. And yes, thank you very much. And now we go to our senior director, the man who pretty much with Rick and Susan started this whole movement, and a good friend for many, many years. I'm happy to introduce Glenn Permoy, who can see, it's almost like you seeing a lot of new children popping up. So Glenn, tell us a little bit about what you see and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Yolanda. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you today. again, regardless of whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. Thanks for joining in. As Yolanda mentioned, we've worked together, she and I, for a number of years. As things started in Mexico and in South Africa and other parts of the globe. So it's great to have her on board as our leader. I want to again echo, although I did yesterday when Olga and I had a chance to chat in between sessions, congratulating her on her award. So well deserved for the great job she's done there. Tim and Mike and the Reverend just did an unbelievable job in Africa. And so thanks for the mention of that for all of them and all the team behind the scenes that helped put all of that together. And that's going to grow. It's going to make a big difference. For me, as you mentioned, Yolanda, I've seen this grow from the infancy when we were part of Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and then being privileged to be on the ground with Rick and Susan to get this started back in just 5 years ago and see where we are today. So there's much ahead, great work to be done, but we should, stop and kind of smell the roses and really congratulate ourselves on the great work. And again, for this conference, you look at Abby and Tony and the whole team back at headquarters. This is pretty awesome. And so when you see it like this, man, I just reflect on the number of affiliates that I have that have been sending me WhatsApp messages and chats and everything throughout this. And the same way they did for the 3 Africa affiliates I have that were at the Africa conference telling me how great everything was. That's inspiring and heartwarming. And I'm so glad to still be part of this with all of you.
That's a great segue because you've mentioned the takeaways, and we're almost coming to the end of our 2-day conference. And before we do that, you've talked about references or people commenting on this conference. Can you, before we take it to the other panelists, reflect on maybe 1 or 2 highlights of your takeaways from this particular conference, and that something that we can continue to move forward, or something that perhaps we can expand upon?
It's going to be difficult to outdo this, but I know that's always our goal. For me, just the top line things rather than the individual sessions. There's a lot to take away from those individual sessions that we've seen or been a part of, but just the energy throughout all of this and the willingness from all of the affiliates and staff to share best practices, to network, to ask for information about how can I get in touch with this person or that person, or can you send me this information? It all speaks to people wanting to grow locally and help others to grow. So I think that sometimes we lose it in, just in all that we get done, but there are so many resources available through the World Youth Clubs and the expertise available through not only the mission advancement team, but everybody that's on board. I've heard that as being the echoes. And so I think people are inspired by all of this, Yolanda.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So we're taking away that there's resources and opportunities for greater in-depth involvement. Let me take it back to Tim. What is your thoughts on what's resonating with you throughout the conference?
Sure. Well, I think that the biggest takeaway is that there are really special people all over the planet that care deeply about the children. And the challenges are different. In the UK, we were hearing about knife violence. And, when we did a site visit after the conference in DRC, they have 1 million people in a resettlement camp 1 mile from the youth center because of a volcano that happened 2 years ago and wars. Yet they stand as a safe place for kids. So one of the other speakers, I think it was yesterday afternoon, was talking about the 3 elements. That there's, at the end of the day, it's hearing people, providing a safe place, and activities to help kids learn and grow. And that is a uniform recipe for success. And I think it's something we all share. And to be a part of the World Youth Club's contribution to that secret sauce, listening and figuring out ways we can add value is our job as mission advancement team members. We listen a lot.
Wonderful. So listen, but in order to be able to listen, you have to have people talking. So then I'm going to send it back to the affiliates to ask all of you affiliates and those that you may know who are not yet part of our World Youth Clubs family to begin talking and asking and reaching out to these experts in the field who know what the basic sauce is, who understand the essential part. And I'm going to ask all of you to make sure you reach out with your questions, with your concerns, with the opportunities to perhaps expand to other parts, other members, clubs, other people who have that same interest. Thank you, Tim. That's very helpful. Mike? Mute.
Sorry, I was pushing the button, it didn't work. I think from I think I'm going to be a bit specific about a couple of sessions that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Caleb's session yesterday. I think one thing he said to me really stands out on the technical side about our impact is that we're very qualitative in our work, and it can be difficult to kind of demonstrate the impact to partners or other organizations. But I think that's the important human side of the people that we work with. We're not moving 1% here and 2% there. We're fundamentally changing lives in a very qualitative way, not in a quantitative way. So that really stood out for me. And then to see the session stay around AI, and to see the growing conversation around technology outside of the US. I think in the States, there's always been this talk about STEM, and I think it's trickling out to the rest of the affiliates as well. And I think that there's so much opportunity for our young people. They don't have to have Harvard master's degrees to earn good salaries and support their families. And all of our clubs can give a doorway, a pathway for young people to understand technology and go and do amazing things in the world and build a career and build their family generation on generation. So yeah, that's for me.
Thank you. Yes, two very, as you say, specific observations. And the whole concept behind quality versus quantity is something that I know has always been with Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and with organizations, it happens the same thing throughout the world. So I would like to just propose that we start thinking, how could we, as a global organization involved in youth issues, begin to change the conversation for donors, for organizations that are in the space but are still stuck in the measurement of quantity. If you change one life, it can be so formational, it can change, but we won't be able to measure it in our own lifetime, because that person will grow up and have a family that will change the dynamics of a community. So I would just propose to all of you who are experts in the youth development field to begin thinking, how can we shift the conversation? Words are powerful. What are the terms that we need to use to modify that? And perhaps Caleb is a great partner for us to begin thinking. If we talk about violence, it's against one person. We can't talk about violence in an absolute. But anyways, I think that's a very good thing. And STEM is also a great way. Even here in Central Florida, we have a whole initiative in the economic development field that changes from hiring based on qualifications and education to skill-based education. So again, that's another conversation, another topic, and another semantical word to use, skill-based as opposed to only graduate or degree-based skill set. Thank you, Mike. Olga, what are your thoughts?
First, I have to say that I've enjoyed seeing the passion of the people and the mission alignment, regardless of where we're living. Everybody's aligned on what we need to deliver for our kids and youth. What has stuck to me is the collective power we have to create impact.
Okay.
We're big. Together we can be very powerful, and we have to share that story. And then the other thing that we saw in our discussion yesterday in our networking session was we're more alike than different. And I think we can bank on those similarities around the world to really, like you say, change the narrative, shift the paradigm, and just make things different for our kids.
Okay, so we have a combined level of effort. The four of you with Martin and Andy have an opportunity to carry these messages and help it resonate in communities. But you're just, at the end of the day, 6 people. You need to have the demand from the communities coming to you to the point where you are so busy, where you have so many organizations knocking at your doors, where your resources are tapped out completely so that we can continue to expand. And that is the challenge, not only for you or for World Youth Clubs, but it really is for communities around the globe to become active and to understand what we have to offer. And if we don't know it, so much, well, if we don't have it, we'll figure out where to get it and how to bring it to you, to all of our affiliates. So that would be my objective. So as we think about the global movement for youth, seeing youth become a passport to a better future, what would you consider, Olga, since I have you here, the top issues for impacting youth today from your perspective and your vantage point?
Yeah, one of the top issues that we all need to have clear, and we discussed it yesterday in our group, is the social emotional support is something that is going to be a common language for our youth. We have to address that. While we may think that the pandemic is over, the impact is still between us, and we need to make sure that we continue to address that and continue to open doors. Like you said, as we teach those skills, we also need to give them the skills they need to thrive in life beyond education. So I believe that making sure that their social skills are provided, but also that we provide avenues for them to address their social issues.
Thank you. Very, very, very observant. Glenn?
Yolanda, I would say top of the list is always for me safety. And regardless of where people are in the globe, there's always some form of challenge, and especially for the young people that are most in need. To echo Yolanda's point, I think also health, and that's mental, physical, social, emotional. And, that's kind of new for organizations in the past 10 years or so, but it's climbing to the top of the needs list, where our young people and their families need that kind of direction and support. And always on my list is opportunity. I think people say, well, can we give them hope? I think we can. I think they have hope. I think hope exists basically in every zip code in the world, but opportunity does not exist everywhere. And our clubs are opportunity. People reaching out are opportunity. 1 day a week services, 1 weekend a month, 3 days a week, or full every day. Those are all opportunities. And I think if we can transition our thinking from everybody has some form of hope, how we can make that a reality with opportunity, I think is a great path for us.
Thank you. Yes, very. Okay. Astute. Mike?
Yeah, I think if I was to say it in one kind of stream, it would be following on from Glenn's comment around opportunity. As our young people move from their adolescence into young adulthood, in many places there's no employment opportunities, or there's very, very little. And I think it's we can only do so much. I think there's also at the global level, and I know that there are conversations being had with youth representatives from the UN, African Union, and whatnot, really getting that message across to them as well, so that we can see some fundamental economic investments in the places we work, so the kids don't just finish with the club and we've pumped them all up and given them all this hope and these skills, and then what do they do with it? Yeah.
A sobering thought. Tim?
Yeah, I'm seeing the video reminded me of the commonality we all share. And, part of that, people to get into this work have big hearts, and they bring whatever skills they have. But the core of it is this big heart for children in their communities. So the first thing that comes to mind is just the concept of self-care. And I say that because people with big hearts sometimes are giving all this love out, but not spending any time thinking about how they can rejuvenate and be stronger for the next day, because the battle's going to be there tomorrow. So I would say that the self-care and being mindful of that, especially to our audience, it's an important thing. And then I think the other element is clearly that self-care ties to being as strong as we can be to build strong organizations. And that's certainly where World Youth Clubs can help, but really thinking about how can I ensure that this operation is here tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, and putting the planks in place to ensure that that happens. And then the final thought that comes to mind is, and it came out again at the conferences, that sometimes we think about ourselves as being smaller. We are a little organization. We're doing the best we can and we're doing a great job. But really, our organizations are the good news in that town, in that kid's life. And it came up with several of the speakers at the Rwanda event that really nation building. And I hadn't much thought about it in that way, but they came in several ways that they were looking to build leaders for their countries, where 70% of the population is under 25 years old. And they see that the work we're doing ties to the country being better. So those are the big three observations that I would have and would encourage us to think about what each of us can do to meet those needs.
Really, really deep and profound thinking. I'm going to just quickly take a moment to recap. So the social and emotional support that we see that children will need, and children as they adult, youth is defined in such a different way around the world. We have a tendency in the US to shorten the lifespan of youth to very minimal, 17 years old. But throughout the rest of the world, it can be up into the late 20s, and so that kind of a span of life. If we take that longer view, it becomes much more important to have a strong base, as Olga was saying. The safety and health is super important because kids need to have that safety and be able to develop the hope, but the opportunity. I hear it in all of you. Without that, and that is something that we do not control, but can we influence and can we share our findings with those that can perhaps be in charge of that nation building, to think about what we are doing with building strong leaders and the global organization. So thank you for all of those thoughtful points. I know that here at headquarters, we will be coming back to you to help us develop perhaps some sort of white papers around these topics so that we can think about who to present them to. And you have first-hand experience. You can speak from the heart because you have been in touch with the right folks who are actually implementing the programs and the initiatives and are in touch with these kids. So I'm hoping that they will be willing to listen to all of you. Shifting just to another topic, one of the most recent offerings that World Youth Clubs has is the Global Links program. And this is, again, another opportunity to connect children from one region to another, one city to another city, one country to another country, or maybe just neighborhood to neighborhood. And to go back to Olga's point, if we are much more alike than we are different, how do you see this being a program that can impact and that should be rolled out in some way? And how can we help you if that is the case? So I've got Tim on the line here. So
Sure. Well, I had seen several examples of successes across continents. The Boys and Girls Clubs of Malibu collaborating with the Boys and Girls Club of Botswana. And they were doing, it was more of a youth-oriented piece where they were cooking each other's favorite recipes and they're having a virtual feast across the planet. Right? So that was one example, but we also had others where it was more focused on the leadership, where an organization was doing its first ever fundraiser. So they were connected with an organization that was well down the line. So when Mike and I presented Global Links and helped our audience understand Global Links, and at the end we gave folks a chance to register, there was a rush of people running to put their names on the list and to be connected with another organization, because all of us need to feel connected, and all of us have stuff that keeps us up at night, and all of us are serving kids that would love to meet and know kids somewhere else on the planet. So the real hook is just making that connection. And we had 42 representatives saying, I want to sign up, based once they understood clearly what the opportunity was. And I encourage everyone else on this conference to learn more and register. We'd love to have you.
It's a great pitch and a very good recent experience with Global Links. So Olga, if you think about clubs that are yet to come on board with the World Youth Clubs, because we haven't had a chance to reach out throughout the southern hemisphere of the Americas, is that something that you think would be a good tool to have in your toolkit?
Definitely, it definitely is. One of the things that I've been reflecting these 2 days is that there's a power in this organization that not everybody's at the same level of development. So there's a lot to learn from the ones that are considered the biggest, but also a lot to learn from the ones that are considered the smallest or less developed, because they are doing a lot more with a lot less. So I do think that there's value on the peer mentoring, both from the professionals on each side of the equation and also from the kids. There's a lot of value on sharing learnings, sharing experiences, even sharing challenges and looking for solutions together. So I do think that as we grow in the Americas and in Latin America, there's a lot of potential on the Global Links program, definitely.
Great. Mike, what is your perspective?
I think the Global Links is amazing. I think, especially with the kids, giving kids opportunities to cross borders is phenomenal and can be life-changing. I think also I just want to drop a little bit here. Tony from headquarters and myself have been talking about esports as a tool, as a mechanism. And I think, I could imagine a Latin American FIFA competition, for example, that Olga could be running with the different clubs competing against each other, basketball in Africa, a variety of things. And the movement of technology now is you can do that on a cell phone. You don't need to have, a $2,000 computer anymore. So for me, it's about the connections. Obviously, professionally, it's great for all of us, but how do we trickle that down to the kids on the ground? And when I was a kid, we had pen pals. That we don't have that anymore. But how do we make those tight connections, deep connections, good connections, not just following on Instagram and whatnot. So I'm super excited about Global Links being something that can be an umbrella for those types of things.
Wonderful. And let me just put a plug in. Susan Goings loves the idea of the pen pals. So I'm going to throw out the challenge. Anybody who wants to still do snail mail will work. We can try we will have a finding on the efficiency of snail mail around the world if we're able to get kids to share and write just postcards to one another. So that's
Yolanda, some of us are trying to bring that back. My daughter is doing pen pals with.
Okay, so now we have a subset of Global Links. We will for all the teens. I have had so many. I'm just going to plug here. Friends of mine who have teen children and want to do some volunteer work, and we were thinking, like, what could we do? Now you've given us a great segue for these teen volunteers to create a pen pal program. So I'd love to talk with your daughter about how together we'll figure out something here. Very good. Wonderful. Glenn, what are your thoughts? You have the most wide range of geographies and all of the map portfolios. And so, somebody from Hungary could connect with somebody from Rwanda, right?
Right. Very doable. I use it as a mission advancement team advisor as part of the organizations that I deal with as their technical assistance plan. When we look at technical assistance and saying, what does your organization need? And we hear we need something in board development, or we need something in fundraising, or we need something in marketing. We need something in programs, whatever it may be. They can benefit not only from speaking to mission advancement team advisors, but to colleagues in different parts of the world. And so one of the ways and reasons to connect organizations together, and Tim mentioned it at the staff level, at the administrative level, is because there are best practices that can be shared readily that are being used today. And one CEO hearing it from another CEO is very powerful. And then sharing templates and giving them things that are already made, and they can just kind of make alterations to them instead of starting from scratch. I don't want anyone to forget the technology is a blessing, but it's also a challenge in terms of connectivity. And so we may think that this is available to everybody, and oftentimes that it's not. And Pen Pal, I think, is great. Because of different time zones, it's going to be difficult at times to get kids in the clubs on a virtual call, on a Zoom. I understand that. And then the handwritten Pen Pals is great, but it's also sometimes takes a month to get a letter or a note somewhere. So all of these things are opportunities and they are challenges that we have to work through. But I give an example of Skagit County as an affiliate and also a sister club, Global Link, with Los Cabos. And I asked Ron McHenry, why would you want to be the sister club or involved with Los Cabos? I don't get the connection, Skagit County, Washington, and Los Cabos. It wasn't that he selected. He said many of our board members vacation there. There is an interest there. And so Ron took that and ran with it. And where they have their own staff giving campaign every year, they collected money from their staff. It was matched by a board member, and they sent Los Cabos $9,000 in order to do program impact. Those kinds of things, you can't just assign someone a sister club, can't assign someone a global link. The more there's a common connection there, the better chance that has of surviving. So with our partners at Boys and Girls of America, it would be great to get a message out to them and say, how many of you may have board members, staff, or whatever that have an affiliation in another country and would like to connect your organizations with them? I think that would be a nice starting point for us so that there's some commonality.
Glenn, you're always the practical person, and that's a great practical connectivity and connection, because you're right. The diaspora communities in the United States that have a connection back home, and I'm a Colombiana, so I know that for sure. Anything that comes out,
right.
Personal situation, but I also lived in Zimbabwe. I lived in the UK, Ecuador. So all of these are personal and close to my own level of consciousness and my family. So if we multiply and replicate that and ask the right questions of potential partners, then perhaps that's the way, as opposed to just picking, a club, with a dartboard and saying, oh, I'll go with this. It's a very practical and very useful tool. And I think that the other MAT advisors would agree that that's a good way and a good conversation starter with not only your affiliate clubs, but also the affiliate clubs that may have a more robust offering for clubs who are in the formation, as Olga mentions, who are in unevenly developed nations. We're creating really like a UN. This is the right moment. UN is in National Assembly, and we are doing the same for youth in many ways. As we go through and as we think about that, this kind of ties into how to involve youth, because we know that you work actively with all of the management and the staff. What could we provide for you, and you in turn provide for affiliates? Tools. I think the Pen Pal is one, and the Global Links is one. But what else can be done to involve youth in benefiting or in optimizing our offering to affiliates?
Can I take a swing at that?
Yes, please. Thanks, Ted.
Sure. Well, so I think the very first thing, the foundational piece, and it's an old saying in Boys and Girls Club work, and that is kids vote with their feet. So if you are opening your facility and you're looking, and there's 3 kids in there, and then you say, well, there's something not right here, and that so the magic is that key person is a safe place, and that the people there know their names, they're concerned about them, and so that's going to be the first hook. But I think where we can take those magical people and add to what they know, and so it was referenced earlier about the Boys and Girls Club national programs. Now, millions of dollars have been spent developing these programs, and I go back to the Botswana Club. They use Money Matters, which is a financial literacy program, and they modify it to fit. They use Smart Girls, which is a prevention program. And I all the sites I work with, when they picked up on one or two of those programs and made use of them and adapted them to their local situations, have exponentially grown the participation by young people. There's not a monolith. So, if I'm interested in sports, great. If there's something for me. But if I'm more artistically inclined, there'll be something there. So the idea is, how can we take these really cool people in these safe places and give them additional magnets to address kids' specific needs? And the Boys and Girls Club model, the program model, is there for us to access and use, and we can help you decipher them, gain access to them, and it will just make you and your team that much stronger.
Excellent. Wonderful. Anyone else who are Olga, yes?
I think the other thing that we can do more intentionally is to listen to their voices. We had the experience in Puerto Rico that we sat down with the recent graduates, and we thought we were doing a great job, and we kind of were, but they told us, you're really good, but when I graduate, I'm alone. I don't have access to mentors. I don't have access to the services. So we had to take that hit, go back and rethink all of our programming to make sure that after they leave, that they're going to go to the same conditions they were at 18, that they can still thrive. And then we started following them 2 years after they graduate, but sometimes it just takes to sit down and listen and just ask the open questions and see what we get back so we can improve on that and really then cater to their specific needs.
That's a really important point. Sometimes we want to do things for others and for kids, but we really need to do things with others and with kids, right?
Right.
I think
Correct.
that involving them. So, Glenn?
Yeah, I think a quick thought. I found this to be kind of universal in terms of how this could work, and we've done it for years. But having a youth council, like Olga just talked about, bringing together young people from the club, asking them, what's working for them, what do they fear, what can we do more of? I think hearing those voices, and especially middle school age and up. I think the younger kids, many attend in all parts of the world because mom said you're going to go. And so you have to. But when they start, as Tim said, voting with their feet because of what it means for them, I think hearing from them is great. One thing that I've always suggested to clubs is talk to kids who are not coming. Go out in the community and talk the same questions. Why aren't you coming? What do you need to make this attractive to you? You have to mesh what you believe are their needs that are in your mind with the real needs of which may be the same in their mind, but maybe you'll hear some things that are different and give you a chance to evolve your programs as well.
Very good. Good thoughts. Yes, absolutely. Mike, any final?
Yeah, I think most of the guys have said all the cool stuff. I'm last. But I think I really like the steering committee, or the one that Glenn just touched on, and I think that even looking at how do we elevate some people in those groups or those networks to be someone that you can turn to, Yolanda, and that Susan and the board can consult and say, we're looking at our strategy. We believe that 1, 2, 3, confirmation, maybe rejection and whatnot, and refinement with the voice of young people, feeding into, and not saying we are the voice, but listening and collaborating, and doing together instead of two, like you said, Yolanda.
Yes, no, I think that makes perfect sense, because it's the involvement, it's the engagement of being able to be a partner, right? You're not offering daycare. You're really trying to provide. All of the affiliates are not interested in just housing children and keeping them in a safe location. The idea is to give them the tools to thrive and to succeed. And so if you look at the trajectory through a longer lens, as we've talked about, youth being older than just the high school graduation and the needs continuing beyond that, I think it gives it a different little spin and a very important role for the affiliates to think about not only caring for the young children, but also thinking of themselves as a place that can help the youth thrive and grow. So the what I would like now to hear from you is, what challenges do you hear from the affiliates? Maybe one or two key elements that that come to you as a threat or as an impediment for doing the work that they want to do. Mike?
Yolanda, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry. I was just sending a message to everyone. I've got no electricity, and I was sending an apology to the group to say, if you can't see me, I'm sorry. I think ultimately it's resources, right? I think the obviously one is cold hard cash. And we don't necessarily want to be in the business of sending checks every other day to people left, right, and center. But that's the kind of the core piece, and around that is the partnerships as well. And I think, a lot of people don't know that we've got partnerships with the NBA, don't know that we've got connections in different spaces and different opportunities. And I think that, for this team that is talking now, understanding those resources, seeking those resources out, and sharing those resources is extremely valuable as well. But yeah, obviously send money, but if you can't send money, send someone to help.
Okay, very good. Great. Thank you, Mike. Glenn?
No, I think Mike is spot on with that. I think partnerships are the key one, exposing all of that to our affiliates, letting them know what's available, connecting them with that, not just saying, here it is, but actually doing the connectivity. I think we have to get heavily involved in the social media side of the world. I think social media can help us raise money locally and for the World Youth Clubs. I just think the story has to be told in a way where it's compelling, whether it's a GoFundMe page or specific type of situation. We need to make an investment there. That's going to turn the table for many organizations who do not have industry where they're at, do not have a lot of businesses, do not have a lot of resources, but they have great stories and they have great impact, and people are willing to invest in that.
Great thoughts. And now we're fully staffed in that department with Evan and Daniela. So that is a great opportunity for us to leverage their skill set. And I would invite all of you to think about that as a resource for you, an extension of resources for affiliates. Okay, so Tim, what are your thoughts on what you hear as the greatest need that you hear also?
Wow, I mean, I think it's universal. It's certainly resources, but I think the first step in all of it is self. There's a old play, The Wiz, where it's called the song is "Be a Lion." So the idea is that you really are the good news in your community. I mean, I think about the Weaver School, 1 mile away from 1 million people in camp, right, living in tents. And they are lions. Every day they open their doors. And so that business of I'm representing all of these kids that I serve who don't really have a voice in my community. They are voting with their feet. They're doing their part. But the idea is looking at the self-care bit, but also recognizing I have a huge responsibility to make sure the bigger world knows what's going on. And that starts with recognizing our role as leaders in our community. So I think that would be one that I would encourage all of us to think about and recognize your superheroes. I have to tell you, Yolanda, at this gathering, I was floating on a cloud just because of the spirit in that room. So I thank you for assigning me to that. But the point is, let's corral that energy to support one another, but also to recognize how vital we are to the long-term success of every child, those families, because you're impacting the whole family if you're impacting the child, and then how the collective impact over time changes the community, and what we found is the nation, creating the next wave of leaders.
Thank you. Thank you. Olga, to you with resources, or what is the greatest challenge?
I'm gonna go with what the others said, but then want to add something for the audience, right? For our affiliates, and is that also reach out and let us know what you need. Sometimes the challenge lies of us, same as with the kids, us thinking that we're doing what they need, and we don't really know. So, but feel free to reach out. We're resources that will do what is needed to advance the mission, but then feel free to reach out just beyond the technical plan and all of the assessments and all that. Just get on our brains and make us work for you.
Wonderful. Thank you. As I'm thinking about any closing thoughts before I wrap up, anyone has something I didn't touch, maybe a burning desire to share something with our affiliates?
If I may,
Yes.
I just reiterate that your mission advancement team, we're sort of the connection point between so many of these things, but you have to help us know what's going on and how we can support. So the proud partnership we talked about from the conference,
Yes.
we're part of that link, but let us be a part of your success. And that's what we live for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the only, I'm a month and a half into this organization, which I've loved since before it was an organization. But what made me feel that I could come and join the rest of the people who have worked so hard on this organization and help, develop more was the mission advancement team. The fact that you exist, the fact that you are feet on the ground, that you have the connection and the passion around the geographies where you are, and that there is a direct link between affiliates and the headquarters in Orlando makes it a possibility and a very exciting one for that. So I just want to thank you all for this wonderful sharing of your thoughts. What I see here is that we have it's like the golden triangle here. The mission advancement team and the World Youth Clubs are here for service, but we need the affiliates and we need the demand for our services and for our engagement to come from the public at large. And that's my plea to everyone sitting and listening and who have participated, whether in the whole conference or just for this particular session, that you share with others in your circle of networks. And it may not necessarily be your neighborhood, it could be across the world. We can reach them and we will be happy to. You have a whole host of experts, seasoned experts who know how to do this better than anyone else or as well as people you may know. And use us, please. Take advantage of what this organization wants to provide for you, and let us build that really wonderful place where we have people and passion and the desire to have us all become much, much more successful for kids in going through. So thank you very much. I believe that this is that we're going to take a short break, and I hope that we continue and end the day with great joy and great new plans.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you. Gracias a todos. Bye.
Saludos. Adiós.